Hey, it's Jason here again, and today I have the privilege of speaking with Pete Keiner. So I think you'll find a lot of value in this if you are looking to see how can I best onboard my clients for AI, for SaaS. How can I best give them the best experience so that they stick with me for the longest time possible, right? And that obviously is the factor that all of us are looking for. So I think you'll find a lot of value in this conversation. So here is Pete Keiner. I don't know, do you mind diving into a little bit of an introduction of yourself and then
Yeah,
why I have you on this call?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I can sometimes be a storyteller, so be prepared for some stories if they come out. So
100%, anytime.
yeah, so our company is called Client Support Pros. We actually, me and my business partner, we started out as agency owners, just like you guys, and we ran a full service agency, a done for you agency, and actually it started prior to even Highlevel, and we were doing that, and about 5, 6 years ago, we were approached by some other agency owners that said, you know what, you guys are really, really good at creating experiences for your clients and getting the retention and the referrals and all of those things and providing amazing support. And they said, why don't you do that for us? And I'm like, but why would I do that for you when I can just keep growing our agency? But at the end of the day, we realized that my zone of genius and my business partner's zone of genius was not necessarily doing the ads piece of it. And so we had somebody else that was doing that for us. And that piece of it was frustrating to me sometimes, that Facebook could have that much control over our destiny and our future. And so it frustrated me. So we test piloted doing basically client experience or client support for some other agencies. They were able to literally take their hands off the wheel when it comes to their customers and just focus on scaling and growth. And so we stopped doing agency work. There's still one client that we've been running ads for I think 8 years now, that we still run ads for. But outside of that, we don't run ads. We're not an agency anymore. And everything that we do is focused on creating great client experiences for your customers. And what I mean by your is anybody that is a client of ours, a business partner, as we call them. And so we do everything from, and Jason, I didn't even tell you this before, we have a full apparel division where we do hats and t-shirts and swag, and we send it out to customers for that experience piece of it. And
Are you kidding me?
yeah, we've got a full apparel division here in our facility in Minneapolis, and so I mean, I can dive in and explain a little bit more, like I did earlier. We actually have a 6,000 square foot facility here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. All the account managers that service agencies and businesses are here in our office right outside my door. And then we also have a lead handling division that converts leads into appointments for things like medical clinics and things like that. And they're based in Mexico City, Mexico. And so, yeah.
That's just so fascinating. Like nobody nowadays, well, I should say nobody. Very few people, especially when it comes to SaaS and onboarding stuff like that, are going to have their team right there in the office. Typically, it's all across the place.
Well, and go back to when we first started this. It was just me and my business partner doing it, and we decided at a certain point that part of that experience was the FedEx guy ringing the doorbell, the dogs barking in the background, the baby crying in the next room, all of the things that happen when you work virtually or work from home, right? And so we decided we were going to elevate that to the next level and make sure that we had a controlled environment so that, I mean, you can hear there's 20 some people outside my office door. You can't hear them. Everything is done so that the high-paying customers that hire the agencies to do the work have a great experience. There's not those interruptions as if I'm working from home and sitting on the couch in my pajamas, right? And so
Right.
it's important for us that we control that. And thankfully, we're kind of control freaks when it comes to that quality. But I say thankfully because it provides a great experience for people. So
Yeah, sometimes being very nitpicky is a good thing.
yeah,
I come from a home building background, and so one of the things there was, I was quite a perfectionist, and like I got into issues with the subcontractors at times. Like, why is this not looking better? Why do I have to tell you how to paint the walls, right?
right.
But in the end, it became the fact that, hey, the client got a good product, right?
Yeah.
So I had to be that barrier in between. That's kind of what you're acting as here. It's like,
Yeah.
You're the face of the company essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's actually funny that you mentioned that you were a home builder because I was as well prior to the marketing agency stint, and we didn't even talk about that. So, so since I'm on a roll for telling stories, right out of college, I got into law enforcement. I was actually on a SWAT team and did law enforcement for 10 years. And during that, I had an itch to scratch, an entrepreneurial itch to scratch, and said, you know what, I need to do something else. And so I started a part-time real estate business, transitioned into home building and remodeling, and saw a lot of success. I was able to retire in my 30s from law enforcement and go full-time into entrepreneurial. And then in 08, 09, when the market crashed here in the U.S., I had to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And so transitioned from home building, real estate into the marketing space in 08, 09, doing websites and SEO and those sorts of things before Facebook marketing and social media marketing was a huge thing. And approached my business partner at the time and said, hey, we're going to do social media marketing. He's like, what is that? He's like, nobody will ever pay you to do that. I'm like, no, I think they will. And so he stayed in construction, and bless his heart, him and his boys have a great business and doing great. But I transitioned into this space kind of like you did, Jason, at some point. So yeah, we have that in common as well. So
That's neat. That's interesting. It would be fun to hear the whole audience kind of see where they're from, because this is
Right.
not their first gig. For most, it's
no,
not.
absolutely not. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. And I'm one of the older guys in the industry. But in 08, 09, unfortunately, I transitioned from law enforcement into home building, had to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up with my 3 young kids and a wife. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? So,
Yeah. Well, I certainly
yeah.
want to dive into like some more of what you see as a good process for the onboarding stuff. But since you have that vast background, I'm curious what you've seen in the market shift, because obviously, well, Google would have been coming out before you got into the agency world.
Yeah.
But there's a big major shift at that point. And now with AI coming, I'm curious how you're seeing that impact and kind of what thoughts you have coming on with how AI is becoming so commonplace, but not necessarily in the business world just yet. I think
Right.
it's pushing into it, but I'm curious on their perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you go back to my beginning at websites and SEO and then transitioning into the agency space, agencies, when I got started, and it wasn't even that long ago, it was all done for you. It was all a done for you service. SaaS wasn't a thing. Even the platforms like Upex and Play and some of those where you can launch ads, that wasn't a thing, right? Everything was done manually. And Facebook has made it a little bit easier, sometimes more difficult, but the space has totally changed. Even when we started Client Support Pros, it was all a full done-for-you agency or done-for-you service, right? And a lot of the agencies were doing everything for the customer. And now as Highlevel has kind of transitioned the SMMA space into more of a SaaS space, it has changed. But I don't know if the customer's opinion of what they're buying has changed. And I'll explain it this way. When you look at Susie, the med spa owner, when Susie first started running ads, it was a full done-for-you service. She was paying $2,000 a month, let's say, plus ad spend, and that's what she expected. She expected that full service experience. Now with SaaS, what we're seeing is a lot of these agencies are selling, let's say, $1,000 a month, $500 a month, something like that for their do-it-yourself type of platform in the SaaS model. But in the customer's mind, Susie, the med spa owner, she still thinks she's getting that full custom service. And so we're having to re-educate the consumer, the business owner, on this isn't like it used to be. Like, this is different now. You have to be a little bit more involved if you're doing a SaaS
Yeah.
space. Now, a lot of the agencies that we partner with, that we represent, they're still doing the full done for you. And that's where our service really comes into play, because we can really handhold those customers the way that they're expecting it to. But there's definitely been a switch. SaaS has changed things a lot over the last year. AI, it's really unique because AI is really big when it comes to the texting and that integration. Like, you've got a lot of different platforms for that. When you look at Assistable, one of the really cool things about Assistable, obviously, is it's the dual platform. It's got the voice, it's got the chat. It basically does everything AI related that you can do. And so then if you tag on and like an UpHex for your ads and an assistable for your AI, literally like it can be a do-it-yourself type of platform, because as long as the snapshots are built out, you're ready to go. And so it's really changed a lot. Because I remember using like CallRail and some of those things where we had to use that for outbound calls and texting and all those things. And now Highlevel has really changed the game when it comes to being able to start from nothing and build a business very, very quickly if you choose to.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible how that's changed it. And now with the AI aspect of it, that, well, communication, you don't have to hire on, someone to do the communications for you as quickly as what you would have used to, because now you have the AI voice and the AI chat.
Yep.
So there's obviously a lot of benefits in that way, but I think you have a very, very good point there that we have to re-educate the customer. And I think that's what you see with some of the I think the bigger sellers of the SaaS platforms, is that in many cases they will actually still sell it as a done for you, and it will still be a done for you. Like they might not even give them access to the SaaS, but the thing is, it still simplifies the process on the back end.
Well, and part of the reason that we even have a lead handling division is, at the end of the day, you know what, the business owner can call you and say, or Susie from the front desk can say, these leads suck. And when we dive into it, we all know that that's not necessarily the case. If you can have that quick call to action, that quick response time to reach out to that lead, you're going to convert way more than waiting a week or two. Back in the day, we had a customer that I called to check in on. I said, hey, you got your first 32 leads. How are things going? He's like, great, I called 5. Like, what do you mean? Those are a week old now. What do you mean you called 5? And he's like, well, I called 5. I said, no. So we had to change his mindset. And this is prior to AI. So we had to change his mindset in regards to, dude, you got to pick up the phone. Like, you have to reach out. And then sometimes you get the business owner that says, well, I called them once. No, you can't just call them once. And so AI stepping into that, there's, if you look like Jim, the insurance agent that may be an agency customer, Jim, the 80-year-old insurance agent, he's going to resist that AI because Jim's just used to using his notepad and picking up the phone and calling the lead. But AI can really change the game when it comes to that speed to lead, as people call it, and getting in front of that lead. Now, you may still want human rollover to have that human touch, because I still really, really believe in that human touch. It's very important from a relationship building standpoint. But some people don't want to talk. Some people just want to book their appointment and go in and see the doc or whoever you're making appointments for. And so AI has really changed the game.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I was just playing with the mute button here.
No,
I am
good.
working from home. So my kids are just outside the door there for the moment. But yeah, so that is, it's incredible. And that you're saying you have the lead handling division. So that is handling leads for all these different types of businesses. Now, I think maybe dive into a little bit. You're not just doing SaaS onboarding, just for awareness for people listening here.
Yeah. So we represent agency owners, big and small. We've got some agency owners that they have 4 or 5 full-time people with us that are doing all their onboardings and customer care and things like that. And then we also provide support for SaaS platforms. We provide support for Assistable. We provide support for UpHex, if those that may know UpHex from an ad standpoint. We're their support team. And so we can do everything from SaaS platforms to full concierge-style onboardings when it comes to holding the customer's hand and walking them through. And on top of that, I mean, we do everything from onboarding them, doing check-in calls with them. We set up a telephone number that they can contact the support team so that they have a human person that they can talk to at any point during their journey, and they get to know that account manager by name. So if I'm an insurance agent and I hired Jason's agency to run ads for me, and I have a question, I know that Karen is my support person, and I can call her and talk to her about any issues that I have, and she's gotten to know me. She knows what my issues are. She knows my pain points. She knows all of the things relationally that I'm going to be looking for versus somebody that is just answering a chat widget. I mean, let's be real. Those chat widgets can sometimes be frustrating. I'm not a huge fan of them, because I would rather get on Zoom with somebody, have a face-to-face conversation, even if it's for 5 minutes, and make sure that their issue is resolved. and then allow them to move on. And what I call that is this resetting expectations. It's very important when we communicate with people when they have a support issue that we're resetting those expectations all the time. Because if you submit a support ticket and it goes into no man's land and you don't hear anything for 2-3 days, you're like, these people don't know what they're doing. Like, they can't even get back to me in a timely manner. It's very, very important. Number one, we have SLAs, which are service level agreements, where we commit to responding to every support request within 4 hours. And then on top of that, we want an update to the customer every day, so that they're not left hanging. Even if we don't know the answer, I'll give you an example. Like for Assistable, if there's a large tech glitch or something like that, and Jordan and his team have to dig into it to figure it out, we may not have a quick answer for them, which can be frustrating, but Jordan and the team's working on it, and then so we are going to make sure that we're continually updating the customer, because if we're not, that's where frustration sets in. That's where they're like, that's it, I'm moving on, I'm going to go find something else because this is frustrating. If we can avoid that frustration, that's where the customer experience then gets elevated. And we're not perfect. We make mistakes sometimes, but for the most part, it's very, very important that we're always communicating and resetting those expectations. And we love to do that verbally. So,
that is fascinating, and I think it plays into almost like kind of the psychology of the way we think. Because if I'm working on a platform, on a tool like Assistable, for example, something doesn't work, I want to have an answer. I want to have it now, right?
Right.
Now, for myself, I don't think I've reached out to support once, because I'm like, I'll figure it out, or I see kind of why it's there.
You're techy enough that you know how to fix most things. So
and so, but that's not the typical case when it comes to like a high level. I'll sometimes be in support, right? Like, hey, what's this feature? Why does this not work this way? Whatever, right? But and so the thing is, if I can get a reply quickly, an assurance essentially that, hey, somebody's got my ear, or the other way around, that it just makes it so much easier, and I'm so much more confident in the product, right? And so I think that's really good that you pointed that out.
I posted a stat on my Facebook page yesterday that 72% of the consumers will switch to a different brand if they get frustrated with support. That's a big number. And 72% of the people will switch brands if they don't have a great client experience. And so when you look at retention levels, everybody's focuses on sales. Yeah. But if you just look at retention, if you can boost your retention just a little bit more, you don't have to sell as much. Or if you are selling as much, now you're adding on top of that, not just replacing the customers that you've lost, right? And so the customer experience is huge.
No doubt. Why don't we dive into that a little bit? So for those kind of starting out, and even those more experienced agency owners or AI implementers, I'm curious, what do you see as kind of the optimal way to onboard and then to carry on support? What have you seen? And I'm sure you have with thousands of onboardings and stuff. Obviously there's some experience and some analytics that you can draw from.
Yeah, when you look at the touch points, even after somebody pays, right? If they get a text message from a live human, and it can be automated, I suppose, but if they get a text message from somebody saying, hey, welcome, my name is Pete, I'm with the support team here at wherever, looking forward to your onboarding call that is now scheduled for whatever date. They're like, dang, that's pretty cool. Pete's already reached out to me. I now have their number in order to be able to communicate with him if I do have a question, right? And so right away now they have that touch point. Then from there, if we're doing a full client experience onboarding, their 2 days later may be their onboarding call. During that onboarding call, Zoom is very important. That visual connection is very, very important. That's why we have people here in our offices. I want to make sure that it's a professional looking background and not a pillow from their bed as they're sitting on their bed, right? And so it's very important that we provide that professionalism for them and that visual connection, because if they can see me, if they can see Susie on our team or whoever, they're going to have that visual connection where they're going to feel a little bit more at peace about their investment to move forward. Then from there, they may get a T-shirt in the mail from the company, right? And now they're having a physical touch point through U.S. mail. Sometimes we'll do welcome cards. We'll send them a handwritten welcome card in the mail. Those sorts of things, because now they're getting that in the mail, and not many people do that anymore, right? And so if you can increase that touch point from an experience standpoint, you're starting to really wow them.
It's true.
Then from there, you're going to do, let's say, a launch call. Let's say they're running ads, and you want to help them launch their ads using UpEx. We're going to show them how to push the buttons, how to upload their templates, how to get everything live so that they can go live with their ads. We're going to show them how their AI works, walk them through the AI system, let them know that the prompting is already set up. You don't need to touch it. You don't need to break it. And so walk them through how the AI works and what that's going to look like. And then after their launch call is done, from there, we want to make sure that we're checking in with them frequently. Because as those leads start to come in, let's say you're running lead gen, those leads start to come in, or a database reactivation, the responses start to come in, we want to make sure that they know what to do with those. Because sometimes it can happen at volume, at scale, very, very quickly, and they're not going to know what to do with those. And so we want to walk them through exactly how things are going. And so doing check-in calls, if we can do a weekly check-in call with a customer for at least the first 100 days, if you can get over that 100 days and they're still happy, they'll be a customer forever. Because that first 100 days is where you're usually going to see your churn. And most agency owners will agree to that. They're going to see most of their drop off of their new sales are going to happen within the first 100 days. And I say 100 days because you want to get past the 90. You can call it 90 days if you want, but 100 days, you're into that next stage, right? So
right.
First 100 days is very, very crucial. And then continuing to check in with them after that. I always say two things. If you're not hearing from a customer, it's either really good or really bad. And what I mean by that is really good, they're killing it, they don't need anything. They're on fire and they're closing deals and they're doing great. Number two, you haven't heard from them because they're frustrated. They're thinking of looking somewhere else to go for other business, and they may be talking to somebody else already. And so it's very, very important that you have that thermometer, that gauge. If you look at like a stoplight, the red, yellow, green, you want to kind of have a gauge for that in regards to how happy is your customer? Are they a red? If they're a red, they need some hand holding and some love. If they're a yellow, you really want to monitor that because that could turn red very, very quickly, but it can also turn green. And so we want to make sure that we can push that into a green by whatever it takes. Now, sometimes you're going to have the customer that you can't make happy. We've all had those. And sometimes you just have to bless and release those people. But from there, you want to make sure that everybody is either a yellow or a green. What I mean by yellow, they might still have some concerns, but at least you're moving towards the green. And so that's how we always look at our customer satisfaction level.
So kind of if you start off the right way, that does really help with reducing churn. Now,
absolutely.
Just from go ahead.
Yeah, and sorry, back to your original question. That first experience, that first touch point is very, very important. Because if you can do kind of what I described in let's say the first 2 weeks, if they start to have objections or start to have concerns, you can overcome those because you now have a relationship built.
Right.
If they're just talking to a chat support person, they don't have that relationship built because they've talked to 5 different people already. Yeah. But if they know Pete from the support team, and they know Pete's going to do everything he can to solve that for him, that's where you reduce the churn no matter what problems you run into. Because if you've got the relationship built, usually you can overcome most problems.
That's so fascinating. I love it. I love it because I know I've previously had an experience similar to that where there was more of a personal interaction. And that really does, like we had issues with that tool for sure. But that really helped overcome some of that. Now, you're saying the first 100 days, and I love that you point that out because that goes into, well, many times the agencies might charge for the first 3 months up front, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, that's to the next payment then, right?
Right.
So just with that, I'm curious, what do you see as far as charging, per month then, or doing, larger upfront setup fee, going for the first 3 months? Does that impact churn or does it not really make a difference if you have that type of onboarding experience?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've seen agencies that have charged up front for, let's say, call it 90 days. Even 2 months in, you still may run into an issue where they're like, no, cancel me, I'm done. I want that last month payment back. And so I think you can overcome anything with a great client experience. And that runs everything from the lead quality all the way down to the experience of their onboarding, to the experience of working with the support team, all of that. And that's why some people have basically said that our team is more like a concierge level account management company because of that experience that we really try hard to achieve. because you can overcome that. And so from a pricing standpoint, we have everything from agencies that are charging, I think our lowest agency right now is $700 a month, and they charge that month to month. We've got other agencies where they're $2,000-$3,000 a month, depending on the done for you service that they're providing. But most of them are month to month. Not many of them are doing 3 months or even a year up front. We had one agency at one point that charged a lifetime fee. And so if anybody's ever considering charging a lifetime fee, I'm going to give you some insight.
I'm listening.
Yeah, don't do it. And here's what I mean by that. If you start selling a lifetime fee for anything, what's going to happen is your support tickets are going to continue to increase. Your support demand is going to continue to increase. The problem is your revenues are not increasing. And so because you have a one-time fee, your revenues are always going to stay the same. But your need for additional support team members, additional operations people, additional ads managers, all of those things are going to continue to go up because your client load is going up. And so if you want to do some sort of a one-time fee, the lowest or the longest term that I would go is annual. Do an annual fee, because then you still have that residual income coming in to offset the cost of labor that it's going to take for you to continue to scale. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, because as you say, if you have to scale your team, if you have to scale you're still paying everything. So essentially there is no end to that. You increase,
and the expectation is for life. And so let's say you have a tragic event happen or something. I mean, you've seen it in the high level group. People say, well, what happens if something happens to me? What happens to my customers? Well, that's a big problem. And then on top of that, you're selling somebody for a lifetime access to the software. So from their standpoint, if I die and I've got nobody to take it over, like, what happens? Yeah. And so not to get doom and gloom, but selling a lifetime subscription to anything, especially when it comes to a service or a SaaS, it can implode on you very quickly if you're not careful.
Right, because as that increases, you'd feel like, okay, I need to increase more. I need to spend more on ads to get more people in, and you get more people in, but that essentially just exponentially comes to a point of you're done. You're going to the negative.
Right, you're going to max out, and you can't afford to pay for the amount of labor that's going to take to keep up with your clients, because you don't have that residual income coming in. So if anybody were to ever ask me about a lifetime deal, I wouldn't do it. I know there's some people in the assistable community that got in a lifetime deal, and I cringed when I saw it, and I know there was some tactics behind it. But if you're going to do it as a quick boost in the beginning, fine. But I would caution anybody on the number of people that you allow to do a lifetime deal.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm curious, have you seen? I think this might be more on the Go High Level side, because I know there was some that were running very low lifetime deals, and I think at least one or a couple of them had a good plan with it, where they're like, okay, from there we're going to upsell to other. Like maybe that was just a small piece of Go High Level, it wasn't the whole thing.
Sure.
Right. Like, is there something that you've seen on that front where it might have been a worthwhile endeavor?
Yeah, if you're going to do that just to basically get them into your system in order to allow them access, but then you're going to upsell the crap out of them afterwards, I mean, that's fine. I don't really like it because I know some people that have done it, and if you look at the reviews have gone in the tank because the expectation of the customer was they were getting full access, and now they're not, and then they call it a bait and switch. And so I would always look at an agency's reputation long term when they do something like that, because the consumer still has the mindset of, I'm paying for a full service, right? Kind of like we talked about with the done for you versus the SaaS. It's the same type of thing. They think they're getting one thing, but they're getting another, but they didn't know that going into it. And so now your reviews are going to go down, your customer satisfaction is going to come down, and then the word is going to spread. There's going to be a whole Reddit article on your agency about how many people hate it because they were bait and switched, at least in their mind, right? Yeah. And perception is what the consumer sees it as. Whether they were right or wrong, if they feel like they were sold one thing and they were sold another, that feeling is what's going to drive it. Facts may be totally different, but that feeling is what's going to drive the reputation. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, I'm muted. My bad.
No, you're good.
There we go. Yeah, very, very true, and very I love hearing your perspective, because obviously through the years you've seen a lot of this. So that's really, really cool to hear. Now, when it comes to onboarding and then the support side of it, I'm just curious, from like your business, do you have documentation for all these platforms that you're with then, or do you just use the documentation that they provide? Basically what I mean is, in the app, say Assistable, is there a documentation that people can go to then?
Yeah, so for Assistable, obviously it's very fluid right now, just because a lot of the updates that Jordan is pushing through and really growing the platform. So that is very, very fluid. When it comes to, let's say, starting out with a regular agency to start with, many times the new agency owners, they might be at 10, 15, 20 clients. When they come to us for help, they don't have their SOPs documented. They don't have their onboarding totally figured out. They're just kind of winging it. And they've been lucky and gotten 20 clients, right? And so what we're going to do is pull in a lot of best practices that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years and pull that into, here's what's really going to make your client experience great. Now, some agency owners are open to that. Some agency owners aren't. Sometimes pride gets in the way, and some agency owners say, you know what? No, this is my system and this is the way I want to do it. Great, we'll do it your way. But then at a certain point, we might remind them, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? Because this is going to save you a lot of headaches in the future. We've had agencies that we've helped set up their systems by providing a lot of the best practices feedback. And they're like, man, I would have paid 15 grand just for that piece of it. But we don't do that. We help our agency partners scale and grow. We don't charge setup fees or anything. We just help them scale and grow when they start working with us, because that's the goal. If they can scale and grow, they're going to need more account managers, more support team members. And so it's a win-win situation for us to help them grow. And that's what we've done a great job at. So,
yeah, that's fascinating. I'm really glad to have been able to have this conversation. Now, I don't know. So I think we're at 30-ish minutes here. Do you have any more thoughts on kind of like, you're like, this is something that I think we should talk about a bit, because this is vital in.
Yeah, I think when it comes to AI, one of the biggest things to really consider is try to make it as simple as possible for people. I think people can get overwhelmed when it comes to a lot of the new tech stuff. Just like when Highlevel came out, everybody was overwhelmed with all the functionality that it can do. But if you use the old analogy of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, if you can break down your systems or whatever you've sold the client into smaller bites, that's going to make it much easier for them to absorb that, understand it, fall in love with it. Because if you throw everything at them, well, you can do chat widgets, you can do this prompting and that prompting, and then you can get build ship involved and do this, this, and this. And what happens is they start to get overwhelmed with all of that. And so if you can set them up with a quick success, which is why database reactivation campaigns are huge, right? If you can take somebody's database, reactivate them, get them some quick wins, that's where the satisfaction comes into play. And then you can start to show them everything else. But figure out a way to get your customers some quick wins with AI, because that's what's going to help them fall in love with it and not get frustrated.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now, just since you mentioned this, have you seen that using AI voice in like speed to lead have you seen a lot of agencies start doing that, and what's the result been, if you've seen that?
Here's what I'll tell you, and I'll be honest with you, because that's what I think your listeners want. Texting is still, in my opinion, from a lead, engaging a lead that's opted in, texting still works a little bit better right now. Just because people are at work, people are busy. They don't have a problem responding quick to a text. They don't want to take a phone call. Now, for me, I would rather take a phone call than text to people, because contextually, like, I can understand what they're talking better on a phone call, even if it is AI. I would rather just tell the AI, this is what I want to do, what do you think? And have it give me feedback. I do it all the time for anybody that's got an AI voice. I love it. For me, it's great. The average consumer, I think, is still used to texting, because a lot of times we'll see, even from our lead handling division, they'll say, you know what, I can't take your call right now, I'm at work. Can we just text and book the appointment? And so AI for texting is amazing. AI voice, I think people are still getting comfortable with it, right? One of the cool things that I really like about Assistable is the widgets. If you can put a widget on a website and say, tap here to get your question answered, that, I think, it has less of a barrier than somebody dialing a phone number. So if you're using Highlevel and you're trying to use an inbound call feature, I think people still think they're going to get a human, and they don't want to sit on hold forever. They don't want the typical phone tree. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Because how many times do you call your credit card company, you wind up getting that, right? And so they feel like if they call a phone number, that's what they're going to get. And so I think from a consumer standpoint, we're still educating them in regards to what to expect when you call somebody that's using AI. And maybe we have to label it. Maybe it's call this number for support with our AI assistant. I don't know. There's still some objections to handle. Now, if you call a lead using AI that's opted in and they answer, AI is a home run because you get the same answers to the same questions over and over and over again. Us humans, we make mistakes. Usually, unless it hallucinates, usually AI won't make a mistake. Usually it's right on every time. They're not in a bad mood. Their boyfriend didn't just break up with them. All the things that can happen to a human, right? You're not going to be dealing with that with AI. You're going to be consistent every single time. And so I think as consumers get used to it and are more comfortable with it, the sky's the limit with it. So I think it's the next wave, but I don't think we're quite there yet from a consumer adopting standpoint.
That makes sense. And I think there's going to be some pushback regardless. Like, so what I've been saying with AI voice coming out is that we now have the tools that we can, as far as opportunities within an agency, there's so much more opportunity because now we can go after the phone tree clients and be like, hey, we can replace that. Now, some people still complain about the fact that, I called the bank and, their AI, I hate it, like, because I have to say it exactly this way for it to make sense or whatever, right? Well, we're kind of getting beyond that a little bit where now AI is so smart, or it can understand us so much better that it actually becomes a lot more beneficial. Now, there's always going to be some people that are going to prefer a human, naturally. But I think for a lot of that repeating conversation that businesses have, well, we can train the AI pretty good to handle those questions in a way that it just makes sense, because in the end it is quicker, they can get answers quicker, and they potentially can get the services quicker, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've listened to a lot of call recordings and I've tested a lot of different AI voices over the years, and one of the reasons I fell in love with Assistable was the quality of the voice, the latency in regards to, and then even just the ability to have a conversation with the AI. It's not robotic at all. Some of the AIs one of them was a demo prompt that you shared that I adopted just for demo purposes. And I've got the thing now where she cracks jokes, or if I say, hey, I'm going to try to trick you up here and give you something, and she'll laugh at me. Like, she'll say, ha ha, and she'll laugh at me. And so it's really gotten kind of creepy when it comes to the quality. But like the AI is now laughing at me when I tell it I'm going to try to trick her because she knows that she's got me beat. So, yeah.
Yep. And that's just going to keep evolving, right? That's
right. So that's where I think as consumers get more used to it and more comfortable with it, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. 100%. I've heard really, like you say, with the orbs, I've heard really good results with that. Like as much as like doubling the amount of signups, right? Which is pretty incredible, just for simply putting one button on your page.
Yeah, I mean, and if you use that from, let's say, a support standpoint, or even from just a consumer asking questions, all the times, like our lead handling division, we work a lot with medical clinics and med spas, and so many times people will just call in, well, I'm just curious about this. Well, AI could have handled that. It doesn't have to come to a human. It can roll over to a human if they've got more questions or want to book an appointment when using a credit card and things like that. But yeah, it's super convenient to have. I would rather talk to an AI voice than do a chat with somebody overseas.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. So as far as the different things that your business provides, your client support pros, what do you guys handle there? So to find more about that, I think what we'll do is we'll just drop a link down below, or you can just search Client Support Pros. There's going to be stuff there. And then one question I just had, and I'm curious on your perspective on this. This is currently, I think this will be changing with Assistable a little bit, but I'm just curious on what you've seen as far as the best practices. And this would be as far as onboarding a new customer with Assistable. So it's a Go Highlevel combo with Assistable. And then typically now we have to enter the credit card in both places, right? So like the client would have to sign up with Go Highlevel, but then also how do we get Assistable in there? I'm curious what you've seen with this, do you see that it's better practice to just have one lump sum and go high level, and then maybe just have it a bit higher to cover the assistable fees, or do it vice versa? I'm curious on what you've seen.
Yeah, I think it depends on the end user, is my short answer. And what I mean by that is if you've got a power user that's going to come in and blow through thousands of minutes every month, yeah, you might want to figure out a different pricing structure for them so that they're responsible for that. But if you've got the average consumer that maybe it's less than 500 minutes or something that's pretty negligible, I would build that into the pricing just so you don't have to worry about it. Because right now they paid for their subscription for your service. If you're using SaaS mode in Highlevel, they've got to put their credit card in for SaaS mode inside Highlevel. Now, if you've got to also put their credit card into the voice AI system, the consumer is going to be like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because it doesn't feel as fluid as if they give your credit card to you once. The one customer that we still run ads for and have for a long time, he's not on SaaS mode. It's built in because I know on average he's going to get between 50 and 100 leads a month, and I know what his usage is, and we've just kind of baked that into our costs because I know that's what he uses. But if you've got somebody that comes in and wants to do a database reactivation campaign for 10,000 people, yeah, you might want to cover those costs a little bit, or put some limits in it, right? You can set the limits so that they can only do so much before then they wind up getting charged. So, and then you can just have that conversation. Hey, with the plan that you're on, you get 500 minutes included. You're over. Do you want to put your credit card on file just to cover those overages? And so that's an easier conversation when they've hit that limit. Yeah. Because then you're not getting all these different payment methods up front. So that's just my opinion.
That's really good to hear, and that brings me to another question. So, do you see that with reselling, go high level, whatever? Like, there's the Twilio or now the lead connector fees. It's like every $20 or something like that. Do you see that that's almost a bit of a bad, like a negative point towards the agency if that comes out every couple days?
I think if it's not sold properly, absolutely. Everything that we do is about expectations. And if you may have mentioned it quickly on a sales call, but if you don't re-mention that during your onboarding call and then re-mention it again on your launch call, your customer's going to forget. They're going to deny that you ever told them that, and they're going to see it as an additional charge. Wait a minute, I didn't know I was getting charged with that. Well, we talked about that on your sales call. No, you didn't. And we've actually seen where agency owners have had to provide onboarding call recordings or sales recordings to them to prove the fact that they did go over that at one point. And so, again, any place that you can reduce friction will make the experience better for the consumer. If they're going to see a $20 charge once a week, bake it in, charge them another $100 a month to cover those so that they don't even have to see that. Because every time they see money come out of their account with the agency's name on it, it's going to kind of rub them wrong, right? They're going to be like, another fee, another fee, another fee. And then they hear from Susie at the front desk, oh, these leads suck, I'm not closing anything. Well, that's because Susie's not calling them. But you know the deal, like, right? Yeah. They complain about the quality of leads. So all of these little things keep coming up. Your customer satisfaction is going to magically go down because they're going to see all of these little things that are just nitpicking them all the time, right? And so I would try to get rid of it if you can. Cover as much of it as you can, build it into your pricing, and just tell them, hey, with our plan, you get X amount of minutes. You don't even have to worry about it. We take care of it for you. Cool.
Yeah. That's so fascinating because, it just seems that people would rather see one bigger lump sum expense than many little ones because they're always like the little, irritating little things.
It's the little jab that they see on their email notifications. Anytime you take out $20, you look at it from a Facebook standpoint. If anybody's ever run Facebook ads, Facebook starts out at low little numbers, and then they ramp up to their $900 is kind of their max threshold, right? And so as those little fees are coming out, that's when our support phone rings all the time because people are like, wait a minute, Facebook just took out $5. Facebook just took out another $10. What's going on? And so if you don't set those expectations properly, it's going to be a thorn. And those are all things that lead up to a positive experience and or contributing to a negative experience. And so get rid of them if you can somehow.
So it seems to me that, to kind of summarize, the client perception is pretty much the name of the game.
It's reality. You could have everything laid out in a written agreement and covered on a sales call, but their perception is reality because that's where the frustration, that's where the bad reviews come in. I can't tell you how many times I've seen agencies get bad reviews because somebody thinks they were sold wrong. But then you listen to the sales call, and no, the salesperson sold it right. They just weren't paying attention because they got 1,000 things going on in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, try to mitigate as much as you can by covering it somehow. When it comes to costs, cover it if you can. Build it in.
So if it comes to cost, build it in, bake it in. If it comes to support, reply as soon as you can. If it comes to onboarding, make sure you have plenty of touch points.
Expectations are huge.
Setting the expectations. Yeah.
We've actually had some agency owners that have the consumers sign an expectations sheet. On there might be 12 bullet points of just expectations, reminders, and they have them sign it to acknowledge the fact that they remember those expectations.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point, and I don't want to pick on Billy Bob and Mom's Basement, but you got 16-year-old guys in Billy Bob and Mom's Basement that are running ad campaigns and love the hustle, love everything about it, but they don't know what they don't know, and many times they're burning consumers, and those expectations are getting shot. And so then when you come at it from an experienced agency owner standpoint and say, I've been doing this for a long time, they have all of these mindset issues from the last agency owner that burned them and that didn't work out. And I don't mean to pick on the young guys. I've seen some that just go rogue and just try to get quick money. So,
but the fact of the matter is, there with, like, I love what Go Highlevel's done to the SaaS, to the SMMA model.
Yep.
But what that has done is give a lot more access to new folks coming in, which is a really good thing. I think it's
absolutely
fantastic. At the same time, it does allow for a lot more to come in without the experience, which then can burn a lot. And that's what I found with my kind of initial work with GHL. Is like, people would be like, especially in the industry I was in, they're like, oh no, you're just like the other guy. Once they see the interface, and so I realized, okay, I better not show the interface because it became a connection, right? So,
and it's totally true. And again, it doesn't matter if they're young or old or whatever. I just pick on Billy Bob, but when it comes to somebody that's newer in the industry, find a coach, find somebody that's got experience and knows what they're doing, and hire them. Offer to pay them something to mentor you, answer those questions so that you got a little bit more coming into it. That's what we love to do with a lot of the agencies that are newer that come to work with client support pros. We do all that. We provide that mentorship. We help them scale and grow because we've seen a lot of them grow, good and bad, and we want to try to help them. And so it's not a pitch for us. Find somebody that can mentor you if you're newer in the industry, just because there's going to be a ton of questions. Like I've seen in the Highlevel group, people post, hey guys, I just signed my first client, but I don't know what to do next. What? What do you mean you don't know what to do next? How did you sell them if you don't know what to do next?
Yeah.
And I just shake my head. Find somebody that can tell you what to do next.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. No, that's fantastic. There's been so much value dropped here. Now, if somebody wants to learn more about, potentially like learning the pricing and things of that nature, is that something I guess it's sales call, that you get on a call with them?
So hopefully by this you've realized I'm not sales pitchy at all. I just build on relationships and have conversations with people. So if you go to our website and clientsupportpros.com, and there's a link to learn more, hit that, book a call with me direct. I take all the calls myself, and you don't get to talk to a sales team because I want to build a relationship. I want people to trust our company with their investment in order to help them scale and grow. And so just book a call with me. We'll have a conversation where I'll learn more about the agency, learn more about where they're trying to get to. And sometimes agencies aren't a fit for us. They may be too new. They may not have big enough goals, because I want somebody that is not satisfied with the status quo, somebody that wants to take it to the next level and is ready to go, because that's our ideal partner. So
that makes sense. And so for that, on that note, what approximate number of clients do you see? Okay, sorry, let me reword that. So when a new customer comes to you, somebody looking for help, what's kind of the place where they're at typically as far as the amount of clients?
It depends on what they're charging, but usually I'd like to see their revenues at least 10 grand a month or more. And so usually my threshold is 10 to 15 clients is about the point where the single solo agency owner will start to feel maxed. The support requests are coming in, new sales are coming in. That's when they're going to start to feel the pressure and like, oh my gosh, I need somebody else. So 10 to 15 clients, revenues 10 to 15 grand a month. That's when it's appropriate to start to have a conversation. Now, if somebody wants to learn more up front so that they can build things out, I just did a call with somebody last week, brand new. He's got a huge audience, I won't tell you the niche, but he's got a huge audience of people because he's been a coach for a long time. He's now adding on the agency services. And so when it comes to him, we kind of went through everything. So now he's building out his systems to accommodate a partnership with us. And so then when he gets to his 10 to 15 clients, then he's going to pull the trigger and he's got everything set up already. So we can kind of guide in regards to what you're going to need as well too. So if you're newer and don't have the 10 to 15 clients, you can book a call anyway. I don't charge for my time. So if somebody wants to pick my brain a little bit on what they need to have in place in order to make it work, hit me up. So
sweet. Well, thank you so much, Pete. I really appreciate the time and all the knowledge you dropped. Honestly, it's going to be huge for many people to just hear that. It's like perception, you know.
Yeah, it's all perception.
Yeah.
The old adage in business, right? The customer's always right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes it is. So.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then hopefully can do this another time again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Dig a bit deeper. Thank you. Take care.